afternoon. How's everyone doing this afternoon? Good? Awesome. Okay, so welcome everyone to At America. We are the U.S. Embassy's American Center, and thank you so much for coming. We're very pleased to have everyone here in At America. And first and foremost, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Genara Jusuf, or you can call me Ara, and I will be the MC for today's event. Is everyone a first timer here in At America? Yes, some of you have been here before. All right. So first of all, for those of you new here, At America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center located in Jakarta. And our mission here is to provide a space for people to learn more about the United States through our events and also our programs. And today's event is titled Baca at America, Meet the Author. But before we start our event for today, we have a social media quiz for our online audiences. And the question is, which of the following books was written by an American author? Is it A, Pride and Prejudice, B, The Lord of the Rings, C, To Kill a Mockingbird, or D, Animal Farm? You can submit your answer on our social media platforms, and for those of you who can answer it correctly, will receive a live shout out from us by the end of this event. And everyone, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to discuss the amazing book titled Supernova, The Night Princess and Falling Star, which is written by our guest speaker today, who also happened to be a very talented Indonesian writer, Dee Lestari. And also, to lead our discussion for today, we are also already joined by our very wonderful moderator. So our moderator for today is the Vice Consul of the U.S. Embassy Jakarta. She is Tara Subramaniam. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage and give the biggest round of applause for Dee Lestari and our moderator, Tara.
Thank you all for joining us today. We're so excited to have with us the incredible Dee Lestari. Thank you for joining us. And we're so excited to talk with you today about this phenomenal book and your journey as a writer.
Thank you, Tara. Very nice to be here. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Hi. Thank you so much for making the time on your weekend. Yes.
So to start, can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write this book?
Okay. So first off, this is my very, very first book. I wrote the manuscript back in 2000, so it's 25 years ago. So going back to that question really put me back in time where I experienced, maybe some would say, quarter life crisis. I was 24 at the time, and many of my friends, they have all this bucket list that they need to tick off when they're 25. One of my friends, she went climbing to Kilimanjaro by herself, and then one of my friend does something else, and I was like, okay, what should I do? And then I remember that I always had this aspiration to become not actually a writer as a profession, but I always had this dream about having my book on the bookshelf, sold to public. And I remember that I had this when I was only 10 years old. I live in Bandung, and I went to this biggest bookshop in Bandung, Gramedia, Jalan Merdeka. Maybe some of you are familiar with it. And so I went there, and I just looked at the bookshelf, and I kind of visualized or imagined that one day I will see my book up there, And so when I was thinking about what should I do when I'm 25 years old, I revisit that fantasy, and I said to myself, like, okay, let's work on this. And I had this manuscript. I worked probably around 6 months to write Supernova, and the idea itself started when I had my first epiphany. some sort of a spiritual awakening that I had when I was 23 years old. And the original plan at that time was writing a book about spirituality. But then I realized I was only 23-year-old. Who would want to read a book about spirituality written by a 23-year-old, you know? In my mind, like, people who write about spirituality had to be old, white beard, white robe, and everything. I was so not that. So I decided to encapsulate my spiritual journey into fiction, because that is the format of writing that I'm familiar of, that I like and I love doing. So that's how Supernova was started. In 6 months, I finished the manuscript around, it was around September, and my birthday is on January. So I had only a few months to prepare everything. And I remember I met this man. We were on the same panel one day on a talk show in Bandung, and he works in a publishing company. And I came to him and I said, you know, please explain to me like you would explain to an 8-year-old child, how would you publish a book? And then he explained to me step by step, this is what you should do. You should first bring your manuscript, bring the printed manuscript, go to the Perpustakaan Nasional, registered for ISBN. You have to find a distributor. You have to go to the printing company. So he told me one by one, and I just did that. So it was 24 years ago, in 2001, in February, I finally published Supernova. So it's really hard to talk about Supernova, not also mentioning about the journey of producing the book, because that is also a very integral part of me becoming a writer that I am now. So that's the story, Tara.
Of
Yeah.
course, and thank you for sharing with us. And it's really cool to hear about that process, right? It's pretty impressive that you published your first book at such a young age. My quarter life crisis was not quite so productive.
Really? Tell us about it.
Maybe another time. But I was wondering, you mentioned, you know, part of what inspired you to write this book was the questions of spirituality and your journey. And I'm wondering, you know, you tackle a lot of big questions in this book, be it philosophy, religion, science, math. I was wondering what parts of your background, how did that influence what became this book, if at all?
I didn't have any formal background either in writing or in science. I studied international relations when I was in uni, but I did love writing fiction ever since I was small. And I think with Supernova, I just combined everything that had been my interest for some time. And within that spiritual journey that I had, I came across with quantum science, and I was so fascinated by it because I found many similarities and parallel concepts between quantum science and, you know, spiritual phenomenon that we encountered from many ancient traditions like Buddhism, and about the power of the mind, the power of meditation, about the power of awareness. And it was just, I just saw the connection, and I was so fascinated by the connections. And so I dived deep into the books because I tried to find out about life, about the mechanism behind life, about the bigger purpose, about the bigger question about who am I, my higher self, and so on and so forth. So within that journey, I just read science books like a thirsty person, you know, like I'm so thirsty, I want to know everything, and I pour it out all in a story format, and that was, you know, the root of Supernova.
That's incredible. Is there anything that you say you were on this journey almost of self-discovery. Is there anything that in the process of writing this book you learned about yourself that you'd like to share?
Well, Supernova had spanned from 1 book to 6 books, right? And I finished it in a span of 15 years. If I have to be honest, I must say that what I write in Supernova is how I perceive the world. It's how I perceive our life, and it's how I perceive the origin of humanity. Um, so if you are familiar with all the concepts that I've written in, for instance, Particle, about the the possibility of extraterrestrial, you know, yes, intervention on our lives, those are not some facts that I just put in my story. There are grain of truths that I really believed in. So all of that, it's a process of self-discovery, and also uh, my way of knowing or exploring of why we are here on Earth. Why humanity is like what we are now, and what is our origin. And those are the questions that I try to tackle for myself, and I just share the process with my readers through Supernova. But it's all fiction, right? You came across characters, you came across characters discussing topics, but it's basically, um, in a crude way, it's communication that's been going on in my mind, my own personal questions.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Given that this is At America, we'd love to hear what prompted you to set the book in the US, specifically in DC. As someone who has lived there,
Yeah.
I was so excited to see Georgetown on that first page.
Oh, you live in DC.
I did, yeah. I
Ah.
went to school at Georgetown and lived in DC for several years.
Okay.
So it was really fun for me to pick up this book,
Uh-huh.
ostensibly about 2 Indonesians,
Yes,
and
yes,
see
yes.
that first scene was set
Right.
in places that meant so much to me. So I was curious,
Wow.
what's your connection to the US and
Okay.
what prompted that for you?
So in the year 2000, I was invited to America. I actually performed there. I sang, and I went to several cities. I went to Columbus. I went to New York for a short visit. And on my way to New York, I stopped by at Washington, D.C. I had a friend who studied there, so I stayed at her place. And so I explored probably, around for 3 or 4 days in D.C. And during that trip in US, I brought back 35 books. So you can imagine the kind of cargo that I brought back. Probably my baggage is overweight. And not just that, I bought a trunk, like literally a trunk, a silver trunk that I just fell in love with, and I have to have this trunk. And I put all those 35 books into the trunk, and it's like so heavy. And those are the books that I used for references in Supernova. So it's just natural for me to bring DC back into my book, because that is how I find those books that I loved so much and become my references. And then, I interacted with lots of Indonesian students who study in the US at the time, who study in DC. And so Dimas and Ruben were just, something that I picked up along the way from my trip to US.
That's awesome. Thank you. So the book, as you've mentioned, does feature 2 Indonesian men who have studied and now live in the U.S.
Yes.
And they're writing, of course, about young Indonesians living here in Jakarta.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about that decision to frame this as a story within a story? You get so much depth. There's a lot happening. For those of you who've read it, you get kind of 2 narratives happening simultaneously. So as a reader, I found that really interesting, and I was curious about your decision to make that as an author.
Wow. So I didn't actually plan it. So imagine this. Supernova is the first novel that I finished. Okay? I attempted so many times before writing novels, never get to finish. If you're familiar with my works such as Perahu Kertas and Rapi Jali, those are the novels that I've written way back before Supernova, and I didn't manage to finish. But Supernova is different because first I have deadline, which is my own birthday, my 25th birthday. So I need to finish, there's that extra drive. And second of all, I think I already arrived in a level of maturity. Um, well, I wrote Perahu Kertas when I was, maybe it was 5 years earlier. Rapi Jali was even earlier. I was only 17-year-old when I tried to tackle Rapi Jali, and that universe is just so big I couldn't handle it. But in Supernova, I think it's just the right timing, the right readiness, and the right maturity for me to able to finish the project. And then with Supernova, uh, the way I work was actually separated from one segment to another. So I wrote Fere segment, and then I wrote Diva's part. I wrote Dimas and Ruben's part, and I didn't know exactly what I will come up with at the end. I have this character, Diva, which is just so interesting, and then I have this love story, Fere and Rana. I love love stories, And then I have this Dimas and Ruben, the characters that has been discussing topics that I was very intrigued about. So there are mixes of this different lives and characters, and at the end, I decided that okay, there has to be a way to connect all of these dots. So I started to create like some sort of a whole within their lives that just connecting one to another, like Diva with Dimas and Ruben, they have this interconnection, and then finally Fere also meet Diva, but that comes later in the process. So first it was just separate segments. So it was not a conscious decision in the beginning, but as I developed the writing more and more, the formats kind of showed up by itself. Then I started, this makes sense. So it's like parallel lives, but actually they are all interconnected. And I think that is in line with Supernova's message, where we are like this silver dots in a big web, and we are connected to one another.
Yeah, it's cool that you mentioned this idea of, the parallelisms, right?
Yes.
Reading it, I thought it was so cool seeing the title of the book mentioned within, kind of very meta, and then
Yes.
seeing that reference also more of an allegory, the concept of the knight and the falling star
Right,
and the princess,
right.
not even just literally, but
Yes.
as those characters. So I thought that was really cool seeing those elements. It's very
Yes,
impressive that was
that's
not intentional.
Right. That's fairy tale is actually what binds them all at the
Right,
end, right?
yeah.
So this is the knight, and this is the princess, and this is the falling star.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
that in the beginning and kind of seeing that as a framework for the rest of it as the story goes was really cool to have that kind of in the back
Yes.
of my mind. Yeah.
Yep.
So you've talked a little bit about your thought process for this book in particular. Obviously, it's spanned into a bigger series. Was that ever your intention, or did you write the first one and then have more ideas that you wanted to flesh out?
So when I approached the end of the book, I realized that wow, there are still so many things I want to talk about. There are many topics about science that I haven't uncovered yet in Supernova, the first. So the decision of making it a series is already happening before the first publication. That's why in the first edition, I don't think they have that on this version, but on the first edition of Supernova, if you see the word "the end" usually appeared at the end of a book, I used the beginning because it was just like a start of another bigger story. So when I finished Supernova, the first, it was 2001, right? I started to have, I started to write a sketch about these four new characters already. Alpha, Zara, and Electra, and Bodhi. So I have this one page of each character that I kept for so long, and then I started to carve out this character out of that sketch. So 2002, I published the next book, Akar, and then 2003, I published the third book, and then I have a long break, and I started to write something outside of Supernova because I have to be honest, I was kind of tired of the universe after 3 years. Like, okay, I need a break, you know. And I think that was the time where I just had my first child, and I thought, wow, I couldn't do novel because novel took so much dedication and time, and that is when Philosophy Kopi or the coffee philosophy released because it was an anthology of short stories, and I said, I can do this, you know. And after that, um, I was inspired to finish Perahu Kertas, and there are many books in between the third supernova and the fourth supernova. And then after the fourth supernova, I said to myself, okay, let's finish this. Do not write anything outside of supernova. Let's just finish it until the sixth book. So that's how it is. So the whole series of Supernova, I can say that it happened in 2 terms. First term, book 1, 2, 3, and then the second term, 4, 5, 6. So that's the creative process of that.
So interesting to hear your thought process behind it. As a reader, I'm always thinking, when an author puts out a book and they've got a couple series going, what it's like, right, to switch between one or the other. And I'm always wondering, oh, but you've started this one series, like, why aren't you finishing it? So it's good to hear, from your perspective, you wanted a break, you wanted something new, makes perfect sense. You were living in that world for so long.
Yes.
So very interesting to get that perspective.
And I think what's also interesting is how I grow as a writer. I don't know if some of you notice this, but how I write in Supernova 1 is very different with Supernova 6, for instance. It's because I've grown as a writer too. So it's interesting to see not just the story expansion, but also my expansion as a writer in terms of stylistic, in terms of how I craft and create scenes. You can really see the difference.
Yeah, totally. And what was that like? You've mentioned that in between the first 3 supernovas and the last 3, you went back to some of your earlier works. What was that experience like, rereading and rewriting the things that, you'd written before your first book had ever even been published?
Yep. Well, of course, they were ugly. Because
I doubt that, but okay.
Oh, I wrote Rapi Jali when I was 17 years old. Like, even the opening, I was like, oh my God, what was I thinking, But I have this belief, and I think this is what I carry strongly as a writer. I believe that when you have an inspiration, an idea, you are actually entrusted with something so precious and valuable. It's a story that will resonate with so many people. You are about to make something unspeakable speakable. It's like an important mission for me. So when I have this inspiration, I do feel like I have a debt. I have a debt that I have to pay, that I have to finish. So when I wrote Rapi Jali, for instance, and it's not finished, even though, I can just drop it and people wouldn't know, like people wouldn't care. People wouldn't know that, oh, Dewi has this old story, lying around in her laptop. Nobody knows. But I feel like I owe something, and I need to pay that debt. So whatever it is, I need to finish. So I started to pick up my old stuff, and okay, now I will finish you, and then I will finish the next one. I will finish the next one. It's just like a series of mission, and in a way, I felt that's my higher purpose in life. I feel like I'm a medium. I was entrusted by these ideas that needs to be born, that needs to meet its readers, its people, and I'm this someone who will bring them to the concrete world, from the abstract realm of imaginations. So that's how I see it. So I always want to pick up my old stuff because I feel like there's an unfinished business.
I love that. It's such a beautiful idea that you've been entrusted with these concepts, with these ideas, and they're relying on you to bring them out into the world. I think it's very beautiful. I'm wondering if that is something you felt back when you were a musician. That's where you got your start. And I was wondering what the shift was like from writing music to writing novels. Is it similar for you, or was it a totally different experience?
It does have some similarities. I believe that essentially I'm a storyteller. Tell my stories in a format of novels, fictions, but I also tell stories through my songs and my singing. But the process are very different. First off, it'll take me about 1 week to finish a song. But with novel, with novel, you need to carve out like 8 months from a year of your life to dedicate yourself to finish a writing. So it'll take so much time of your life. It's a harder job, but at the same time, it feels very rewarding because you create a world, you create something, you create a universe, a little universe on your own, and I think that is a satisfaction that is very hard to compete. So it does feel different, and with music, there's an element of performance. With writing, you can be yourself, you can wear your pajamas at home, nobody cares. So I feel more relaxed, I feel more of myself, and I find that not just relaxing, but also I got to be more grounded. But I do miss singing. If I skip singing for so many for so long, I will miss it. For instance, I plan to have a solo album again next year. Yay! After so long, you guys know my last solo album, Recto Verso. It was 2008. Okay, and I have this guilty feeling like, okay, Dewi, you were given this talent. Okay, you write, but you also sing and you also write music. But why you pay attention more and so much on your writing? You kind of neglect this department, and I do feel like I need to come back to music more. Even though I've written songs for people, I release some singles, but it's not the same with creating your own album, right? So that's my plan. I want to have a more balanced proportion between my writing and music, because even though they're different and the satisfactions are different, but they're all part of me. I cannot leave one out. So I need to embrace them and cherish them and nourish them.
Absolutely. Well, that's very exciting news. Thank you for sharing that with us. You mentioned that you see yourself first and foremost as a storyteller. So what do you hope to share through your work, be it your music or your writing? Is there anything you hope people take away from this book series in particular, or your bigger body of work?
I have this one principle. I want to write books that I want to read. I want to write songs that I want to listen. So everything that I want to be out there, if I don't find someone who does that for me, that can only mean one thing. I have to do it myself. Supernova, at the time, I was so interested with the combination between science, spirituality, love story, but I couldn't find any book that speak all of that. So, why not writing your own book, Perahu Kertas, or Paper Boats. It's about two artists. One is a painter and one is a fairy tale writer. And it was just like a love story that it was spanned between a long time, and it's beautiful. And I felt like, oh, I need this. I need this kind of story in my life. But I couldn't find any. So, all right, just write it myself, Rapi Jali is about musicians with identity struggle and coming out of age kind of, conflict. I wanted to be out there. I couldn't find any, so I write one. So that's how I approach story writing. That's how I approach creation. It's something that I want to be put out there. Nobody does it, so I'll take the job, But within that, even though it sounds very claustrophobic in the beginning, but I found that turns out a lot of people has that need, but I just didn't know, But then a lot of people responded to my work like, "Mbak Dewi, you've written about my life basically," or "Your work has inspired me to do many things in my life that I never thought possible." Perahu Kertas. Can I share it here? Yeah, I think I can. So Perahu Kertas, because this is a very touching story. Perahu Kertas will be a musical next year. Okay.
Wow.
Yes. So I think this is the first time I reveal it to public in at America. And the script writer told me she brought a very old Perahu Kertas, which is all worn out, and she said, "You know how important this book for me? Because of Kugi, I study sastra Indonesia, and I want to become a copywriter just like her. And she is now one of the most best-selling scriptwriter in Indonesia industry. And I was so proud of her that she now works for this musical. So it's like, like a what do you call that? Full circle.
Yeah,
yes.
that's
So it's like a
amazing.
full circle for her. And I'm so happy because I never thought that a story that I wrote that I just, I just want to put it out there. Turns out it works like a beacon. It works like a beacon for many people who has the same journey or a similar struggle and need some inspirations from that particular book that they found. And I think that's the magic of creation. That's the magic of storytelling.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
We're going to open it up now to the audience, both here and
Yes.
online. If anybody has a question in the audience, we'll start with you guys. I see a hand up in the back. I think our e-guide is coming around with the microphone. There's one back there, and then we'll work our way around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I want to ask, siapa di sini member Mabes Alien? Wow! So I have this channel in my Instagram, and I just share, bits of pieces of my life and thoughts in that channel, probably 150 words every day, almost every day. And I told them about this event today, and some of them comment, I will be there, I will be there. So I just want to check whether are you coming or not. And turns out they are. Thank you so much.
That's so great. Thank you guys for coming. I think our first question is back there. If you can give us your name and then ask your question. Yeah.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Andes. I'm from, I'm a CEO of Lalankara Digital Agency. So we built the digital ecosystem with handle more than 60 social media accounts. Wow. And I think it's quite relatable with the creative process because but they also provide a creative journey. For example, you build a novel. Yes. But in the middle of to join for the creative process, of course, we face it about idea blocks, right? And I also thinking about, of course, as a creative persons, we also can get the attention for aha moment. Okay, in the middle of the block, but sometimes where we want to go into the toilet. Okay, is it the aha moment when we get it right? And I have a questions about to increase the percentage of the aha moment. Did you ever thinking about it, or if you thinking about it, and what's the way to get the aha moment to increase the percentage? I think that's all. Thank you.
It's a very interesting question. Thank you. Do we listen to the all questions or I can just answer? Okay, all right. Wow. Okay, thank you very much for that question. That is actually very interesting. I mean, questions about writer's block, I got that all the time, but how to increase that sensitivity? I think you already nailed the concept of, I always believe that inspiration is all about sensitivity. It's about how we listen. Because that is one thing that I experience many, many times, almost all the time throughout my creative process. We actually listen. So when I create a song, I try to listen what melody that comes out from the other side. For me, it's always like a dialogue between me and something from the inspiration or idea realm. So it's like listening. It's the same thing when I write a story. It's more like a process of discovery than rather than try to filling out empty spaces. It feels like it's already there. I just need to listen better. Okay, so how to increase that sensitivity? First off, is we do need some sort of a practice. I remember one time when I was writing, this is the period when I wrote Philosophy Copy back in 1996. I had these little rituals. At the time, back then, we didn't have cell phones, okay? So I was pretty lucky that I was part of the generation that once didn't have any digital life. So you have to get bored, and there's nothing that you can do for escaping that boredom. You just have to live with it. And there was one time where I go out of my room. My room is in the attic. So my house has an attic, and I built my room there. So when you go out, you will see jemuran, yeah. You will see jemuran and then the roof. So it's not a beautiful view, it's not at all. But I could see the sky. I could see a bigger piece of sky from the attic. And so what I did is I sat there in the attic. I looked at the sky, whatever I found, shapes of clouds, birds flying, whatever. And I made this intention of listening to everything until the clouds talk back to me. And during that period, I created so many poems. Ones that you found in Philosophy Copy, Spasi, Lilin Merah, Kuda Liar. Those are the poems that I wrote in Philosophy Copy, and I used that method. I just stare blankly at nothing until it speaks back to me. Or sometimes I would think about one object, Lilin Merah. I just think about lilin, and then until the lilin speaks back to me. And there's always something, if I allow. And within that process, I started to realize the magical side of storytelling. It's actually about listening. There are always stories out there. And then when you have that view, when you have that belief, everything will change for you. You're no longer looking for inspiration. You're no longer like, okay, inspiration only comes for special people. I started to see things differently, and I believe, everything has a story. This, if I stare at this long enough, I can create stories from this bottle. I can create stories from this tea. I can create stories from anything. And to be able to do that, you really have to put that intention and to have the right set of mind. believe that stories are just there to discover. You don't have to invent anything. You don't have to create something out of nothing. It's already there, you know? So maybe it'll help when you have ideas block. Think about one object, a pen, just random object, and start to wait until it speaks back to you and reveal some sort of stories. And probably at first it will feel kind of silly, like what am I doing? Am I schizo? Am I hallucinating? Am I deluding? But just trust the process. And once you get a hang of it, you can repeat that process. It'll change you as a creator, believe me. And that's how I do things. So I never sit and wait for inspiration. I just increase my sensitivity. Thank you.
Thank you. That's so powerful, especially in this day and age where there's so much noise all around us, online, in person, taking that
Yes.
time to just listen, I think is a
Right.
really, really
Because you can
inspirational.
only find it when it's silence.
Absolutely.
When it's silent, then you can start to, find things. But if you keep on escaping yourself through the noise of social media, then that's inspiration will not have enough room to speak back to you because you need some sort of a space to do that, an empty space.
Absolutely. Our next question is coming from online, from Dina on Instagram. She asks, what message do you most want to convey to readers through Supernova? You obviously talk about a lot of things.
Yes.
If there's one message that you're trying to convey with this book, what would it be?
Connectivity, that everything is connected. Nothing in this world is separate. Separation is the illusion. So, the jargon of what comes around, what goes around comes around, the karmic bonding, everything, everything about interconnectedness are very true. I believe that. And so Supernova is talking about that connectivity. Yeah.
Perfect. I will take one more question in person. Oh gosh. Okay. Maybe we keep working our way this way. Yeah, we'll start with you. And I see all your hands. Don't worry. We're going to get there.
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Miriam. I'd like to focus a little more on your writing process
Sure.
and how sometimes you would have like a bunch of ideas. And you mentioned that you had a bunch of ideas for all your characters as well. But how are you able to make these ideas into paragraphs, into words? And I think, like, personally, as an aspiring writer myself, I have all these little ideas and all these little like concepts that I wanted to form. But how would you be able to synthesize it into chapters, into actual paragraphs and words that actually make sense for the reader to understand? Because it makes sense to us as the creator, right? But to be able to share that to other people is another thing. So yeah, I'd like you to share your little process on that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, okay. I always say this in my writing workshop. Tidak ada cara untuk menulis selain menulis. I think Gertrude, I forgot her name, but she has this quote: "To write is to write. To write is to write is to write is to write." Now I don't know how many repetition is there, but that is a very powerful quote in my opinion, because it is like that. Writing is essentially a journey from abstract to concrete. So when you say, how do you synthesize ideas to writing, you have to be first brave enough to do it, to just see how it works. Because we can feel that, oh, I have this brilliant ideas, but once you get it down to writing, then you will see its true value. Sometimes the brilliance is not there, but in our minds it's, oh, it's a brilliant idea. The only way to prove it is to write it down. And we have to understand that this book is going through a lot of process before this. First draft becomes second draft, become third draft, fourth draft, until final draft. And then it goes to the editor of the publishing house, and she will go to first draft, second draft, So this is already a refining product. Maybe not just the writer, but also editor, and for this case, the translator. So at first, sometimes what we write doesn't make sense at all. And it doesn't have to be, but you just have to pour it out there and be prepared for the refining process. And the refining process may take some time. And that's why I always strongly emphasize to everyone that, do not mix writing with editing. At first, you just need to put it out there through writing. And sometimes it won't make any sense. Sometimes the paragraph is so badly written. But it's the first stage, and you have to go through that. You have to be ready for the worst shape of your creation, And then after it's out there, then you will have time to refine over and over again until it becomes something, that makes sense, that structured, and it has a certain flow to it, But sometimes it didn't happen in our first try. And the only way to do it is just to write it down. Of course, there are many theories that we can follow, the theories of 15-bit from Blake Snyder, or, the hero's journey, in order to make our narrative, a bit more comprehensible, more structured. But essentially, it's just about bravery to put the abstract concept into a concrete form through writings. So the only way to do it is just write it down, even though it sucks.
Thank you.
Yes.
I will take another question from the audience. We can go work our way this way. Go ahead.
Hello, Mbak Dee. My name
Hello.
is Kanti from Jakarta, of course. So my question is not too serious. I'm just wondering, what is your favorite character throughout your books?
Okay.
You can mention 3 and why. I'm just wondering.
Very specific.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
3 characters. Wow, it's so tough. Yeah, it's a simple question, but very tough to answer, because I think every character has their own purpose. Even what we call, villains or bad people, they are there in our stories for a purpose. And the protagonist won't shine if we don't have the antagonist, So the antagonist is as important as the protagonist. But if I have to choose my favorite, first it will be Alpha Sagala from Supernova 5, Gelombang. I don't know why. Probably because Alpha is Batak, I'm Batak, and okay, I'm sorry, ancestors, but I grow up not so fond of my own culture, because I was born and raised in Bandung, so I'm more familiar with the West Java culture. And when I go to the, Batak gathering or my family event, they're so loud, aggressive, and, so in your face. And it's just like, I'm not accustomed to it, so I grew some sort of a distance between me and my own culture. I mean, I'm part of it, but I'm not so fond of it, But when I write Gelombang, I thought to myself, okay, I think I want to write a Batak character. And not just, like a Batak who grew up in big cities like me, but Batak in the Batak village, in North Sumatra. And so I created Alpha Sagala. And that is actually my way to reconnect back with my culture and appreciate it in a different light. Suddenly I saw, some qualities of Batak people and its culture that is very respectable and I admire a lot. And I think writing Alpha is so much fun. He portrays a very strong character, an immigrant. He traveled to U.S. and he became, he studied in the Ivy League, become a hedge fund manager, and very successful. And he came from a super struggling, challenging background. And I don't know, I just love his arc. So Alpha should be my number one. Number two is, I
It's okay
think,
if you can't rank them all. That's okay. We
right,
understand.
yes, I think it would be Jatiwesi from Aroma Karsa. Same thing. There's something about awkward guy with superior power. and and the third one would be hmm Electra. Yeah, Electra from Petir, because she is so like me in the inner world. I have that side of her, just so silly. We overthink everything. We laugh at the world in our own mind. I just love her. And writing Electra, writing Petir is like a comic relief for me. I mean, I love Zara, but Zara has such a bitter life. And so there's some sort of a sense of suffering with Zara, but with Electra, like, ha 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 ha, happy go lucky. And I enjoy the writing process. So yeah, that would be my three characters.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, my other characters, not that I don't love you, it's just a difficult question.
Well, it sounds like the ones you picked are favorites from those in the audience. So
Yes.
there you go. Next, we had a hand up here. We're working our way over. I see you all. Don't worry.
Hello, Mak
Hello.
Suri.
Hi.
I'm Stephanie. I just want to know, what do you think about memes in the Kesatria Putri and Bintang Jatuh?
Memes?
You talk about meme tika, I guess.
Uh-huh. Meme. Okay. I thought it was like
Yeah.
memes, like reels, like Instagram memes.
Right.
Okay,
In
okay.
this digital
Yeah,
digital era, it reduced into only jokes on the internet.
yeah.
What do you think about it? And maybe do you have experiment about it? Thank you.
Thank you. So it's I hope I pronounced this right. Memetics or mimetics. Mimetics or memetics? Memetics, yes. Okay, so memetics is it's relatively a new science where in so we have genes, right, in genetics, but memes is like the smallest unit of thought, of mind, and mimetics try to convey that we humans are exchanging memes, like memes as a unit of thoughts, and what we have now culturally is actually a war of memes. Who has the strongest memes and who has the most influence over people's minds. So I found that very, very interesting, and that is actually the reason why I want to do Supernova as a series, because after writing the first one, where I covered a lot about quantum science topics, I feel that the next one, it should be for memetics. I'm so interested in it. But when I started to write Akar, I fell in love with the story so much. I started to forget my original intention, and I just dive deep into Bodhi's life. But memetics is like always on the back of my mind. I don't know if I would have the chance to write it or dedicate a book for that particular topic, but maybe in another format I would try to cover more about memetics. But even though it's a relatively new science, and I don't know the status of it now, whether it's an established science already, are the scientists already accepting it as a real science, but I do believe that's also how humanity works. That we are challenging memes every day, and we try to compete the memes are trying to infect us and to spread just like genes. So it's the same thing, but now it comes from in a unit of mind or a unit of thought. So yeah, that's memetics. Virus of the Mind. That's actually the book that Richard Brody. He's one of the first people who speaks about memetics, and his book title is Virus of the Mind, because the how it works, it really similar with virus. It just wants to replicate. It wants to overpower and replicate. Yeah.
Thank you. Next, we had a hand up over here, I think. Yes, you. Yes. Yeah, right here. Over here. Yeah.
Hi, Madi.
Hello, Alia.
So I'm Alia. So I'm just a little bit curious about that you mentioned that you bought some books,
Mhm.
and I I'm sorry that I noticed that you are a singer.
Yes.
Malika juga tahu is my favorite song
Thank
this whole
you.
time, and I'm just curious about the process and in that you use some references. Can you mention about the book recommendation maybe for to make this masterpiece? And I'm just curious why did you choose science or fantasy genre maybe for your work? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the last one first. Okay, about fantasy. I actually spoke about this with my friend the other day. I realized that it was never a conscious decision. It's almost like my life is bringing me back to that topic over and over again. For instance, when I wrote Aroma Karsa, I never intend that to be a fantasy genre. To be honest, I never cared about genre. So when I write something, I just write. I let people decide whether it's science fiction, it's fantasy, it's thriller. And I believe that my work is always a mix of many things, not just one. But there's always an element of fantasy and science in my major works. I don't know why, but I'm just like attracted to it. Almost like like a, what do you call it? The bug, that moth, moth to a light. You know, I'm just like that. It's like, I want to write this. And then, at the end, I always, there's always this science that I try to cover. There is always, fantasy world, alien, UFO, and, ghost, whatever. There's always something. Even in Rapi Jali, I always say to people, Rapi Jali is the most realistic story that I've ever written. But at the end, if you know that Ping heard something that cannot be explained by nobody knows what she explains, and it was something ethereal, it's something other dimensional. There's always, I don't know, I cannot help it. So I don't know if it's a conscious decision, but I just feel like I'm attracted to it. And then the book recommendation, one that really sticks out is Self-Aware Universe by Amit Goswami. Oh, that book, probably 50% of the book, it's just like full of lines, full of lines. Like I discover so many things from that book. And also The Turbulent Mirror, and that's my first introduction to chaos theory, which I quote a lot in Supernova. The Turbulent Mirror, okay, David Briggs and David Pete. Okay, I will get back to that because it's been so long, I have to remember, but the title of the book is Turbulent Mirror. And and Conversation with Gods. It's not quoted in Supernova, but that is also a book about sensitivity. I think when you open yourself as a channel and you open yourself, wonderful things can happen to you. I believe that what happened to Neil Donald Walsh, the author of Conversation with Gods, it's actually something that we can access, but we just have to be very spiritually open to those experiences. And my encounter with that book kind of opened and triggered my journey to Supernova.
Thank you. We had a couple more hands over here. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Vanessa, and I started writing since like I've been writing a lot, but like aside the point, I just want to ask a couple of questions. When you write a story, how do you keep up with the characters? How do you develop them as the story goes? Do you have your own ways of keeping track of them? And the second one is, how do you see those characters to you? Do you see them as an extension to yourself, or is there like anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I never really see my characters as an extension of myself. I actually feel that it's better to have characters that is so far apart from ourselves. In that way, I can be more objective about creating that character. But of course, you cannot really separate yourself too rigidly from your character, because of course there are, your concepts or your thoughts or your worldviews that is seeping into your characters consciously or unconsciously, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just never had an intention of creating characters out of myself or extending myself, except for Dimas and Ruben's case, because they are really representing my own discussions about the scientific subjects in Supernova. And I think with them, I did make that conscious decision, like, okay, I want to create two persons discussing this topic. I need them for my mission. Yeah. But the other characters that I've written so far, I actually want them to be, as far as away from myself, because I don't find myself interesting enough to become a character. I know that there are writers who, even so blatantly, that this is actually me. They just changed the name, but so they're writing about their lives, but they fictionalize it and just change the name. But it's basically the same person, with 90% similarities of event. But I don't do that because I like crafting characters from zero. And for me, characters are carriers. They carry the weight of the story. They carry the needs of the stories. And sometimes what the story needs is something entirely different from myself. I don't have to be involved in that. I feel like I'm there just to serve the story. Dee Lestari doesn't have to be in it. I even believe that, the better your writing is when you don't feel the writer inside. When you feel the writer, then there's something unrefined about that, But you have to forget myself. You have to forget Dee Lestari when you read anything that I've written. That's my aim, So unless if I create something, a memoir, that is my life story. But when I write fiction, I want people to forget me and just enjoy the characters, just enjoy the story that I crafted for you. Sorry? A blob of light?
Yeah, in Tanpa Rencana,
Uh-huh.
you were just blob of light in front of the.
Oh yeah. Except that, because that is, I inserted myself consciously. Yeah, just a blob of light. True.
Very fun. Thank you. We've got one more question here, and we'll keep going. Yeah.
Hi, hello Dee. My name is Anaya, and I'm so excited because this my very first time meet you in real life. And I have finished. I'm biggest fan of Supernova series because this my. I have finished Supernova series in 2 months ago, I think. And my favorite book is Particle because my boyfriends and I agree I'm Zara and Zara is me.
So sweet.
Yeah. And my question is, among all the Supernova series, which one is the hardest one to finish, and which one is you the most excited to enjoy to finish. Thank you.
Okay. Wow. I think the most difficult book that I've written, not just from Supernova, but the most difficult book that I've written all my life so far is Supernova, IEP, Intelligensi Embun Pagi, the final one, the sixth one. And I think everything about it is challenging. First of all, it had to combine 6 different universes into one. And it almost drove me crazy because I have to switch heads so many times from Dimas, Ruben, Gio, Zara, oh, so many people. You know, sometimes I lose track when I write like, who's speaking? Who's speaking now? You know, so many people. And then in Inteligensi Embun Pagi, I wrote Bodhi's experience when he is in the 4th dimension. We are in the 3rd dimension where we see, you know, panjang kali lebar, you know, but this 3D universe. But how do you explain 4D experience in 3D language? So it was so difficult. And then so many cultures in one book. You went from South America, you went to Jakarta, you went to Tibet, and then you went to Cianjur Mula Mula, you went to this Bukit, I don't know what. It's just like, oh my God. So, wow, that was like my Mount Everest. But after that, everything else become like, if I could tackle that, I could tackle anything, you know. Aroma Karsa is also not easy, but if I have to choose between the two, I will still choose Inteligensi Embun Pagi as the most challenging one, just because of the size of the universe that I need to deal with, because it's the final book. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Dee.
Hi.
I first read your book Madre because I saw the movie shooting in Bandung when I was there. So I buy your book, start with Madre, and then Recto Verso, and then Filosofi Kopi, and then the Tirai Aroma Karsa Tirai.
Oh, okay. So
I'm-
you start from short stories first, yeah?
I like nonfiction better. I mean, I read more nonfiction than fiction.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is more about time management. You talk about birthday deadline.
Yes.
I use that too, but it never worked for me because
Really?
I have so many because excuse is my middle name. So
Okay.
can you tell me? I mean, I think your first book is more harder than the rest of the book because it's the first one. So tell me the secret weapon about how to manage your time, especially you have a kid. So and how to finish the book with your birthday deadline. For me, the deadline is always have an extended deadline. Okay.
So if I explain this, would you find another excuse not to follow my advice?
Hope not.
Okay. I must say this, that, you know, a lot of questions coming asking about writer's block, right? And I have answers for writer's block. You know, it's about technical difficulties, and sometimes people don't know that they are dealing with technical difficulties. But the ultimate answer, the ultimate antidote for writer's block, in my experience, is a deadline. Because there's actually one power in this world that we all need to harness. And even people with excusitis. It's a disease for people who have lots of excuses. I just call it excusitis. Yeah, kayak gastritis gitu, ini excusitis. Okay. If you have a deadline, and this deadline is not just another deadline, but it has to have enough pressure. And this is the most important thing. Sometimes people have deadlines, but they don't add pressure. They don't have the imminent danger and threat. If you don't finish, what will happen? And this also same with story. Sometimes people will have difficulty to finish their story because they forgot to put stakes in their story. And sometimes people are, oh, this story is so boring. Why? Because there are no real stakes. So stake is very important, you know? So there has to be something concrete and imminent and a real threat if you don't finish your work. And we can create that. We can create that. Let's say, okay, you can say to your family or your friend, look, if I don't finish this book by December 2025, I will buy you the most expensive meal in Jakarta. I don't know, take them to a 5-star buffet in some hotel. That'll take, you don't want to spend that much money, right? Just because because you don't finish. So you have to put a real threat. And that is where you harness the most powerful force in humanity. The power of kepepet. Orang yang nggak bisa manjat pagar, kalau dikejar anjing, tahu-tahu bisa. Yeah. So people who cannot jump over the fence, but when a dog chase them, with all the German Shepherd, like, wow, they will jump through mountains, So use that power, the power of kepepet. And I use that a lot in my life. I'm actually super lazy. I identify as a sloth. I always say, if there's one animal that, is my spirit animal, is sloth. I like to sleep all day, doing nothing, just, that is my favorite thing to do. My best day is when I don't have anything to do. But yet I write 19 books and, write, I don't know how many songs, blah, blah, blah. But because I always harness the power of kepepet in my life. And I think that is one thing that has saved me many, many, many times throughout my journey, professionally, personally. So just remember that and always put pressure on the deadline. Not just a deadline, but pressurized deadline. How you put the pressure is really up to you. Just be creative, just whatever that is threatening to you, financially, personally, whatever, put it out there and harness that power. Yeah, hope that helps.
Thank you. That's great advice. Are there any other questions in here? Yeah, one last one, and then we'll be wrapping up.
Hello.
Hello.
I just have one question.
Yes.
Do you actually believe in aliens? And if you do, please do share some of your personal experiences with your interaction with non-human entities.
Believe in what, sorry?
Aliens.
Alien. Bener-bener ini member Mabes.
Yes.
He's a member of my channel. And the channel called Alien Headquarters.
I see.
Yes. All right. Okay. Always take this with a grain of salt, people. Okay. Don't take this too seriously. But I always feel, there's a feeling of longing of another home for me. And not many people experience this, but there's always, the question of, why am I here? I think sometimes people took for granted the question, that inner question of why am I here? For me, that signifies another possibility that probably, you are from somewhere else and then you woke up suddenly like, oh, what is this planet? Why am I here? That could be that. But because you specifically asked about alien, when I was in junior high, I had a very lucid dream that when it ends, I wasn't really sure whether it's a dream or not. And I still remember it clearly until this day. I saw a cloud with something flying over the cloud. It has a red streak of lights following. And I said, whoa, that's actually a UFO, I thought, you know. And then I realized that it sends a small flying disc that's like a probe. It follows me and kind of spies me, and it was outside of my room, and it creates a very strong vibration. It really hurts my ear, and when I woke up, my ear still very hurts. And the memory are so clear, and yet it feels like a faded memory. But you know, a dream with faded memory, I think it's rather different. It felt more like a faded memory. And that's one. And then this happened later, much later in life when I was adult already. I felt that I had a brain surgeon, and some entity put something in my mind, it's almost like a chip. And it said to me like, now you can contact us whenever you want. And I said, okay. It doesn't hurt at all, but when I woke up, I felt like, whoa, direct contact. And same thing, it felt like a faded memory, not a dream, because everything felt so vivid. And somehow it's just, it came out jokingly in my writing, in my saying, but it always left me a question. Was it real? What was actually happened? But whenever I came across subjects or readings about UFO and alien, it just felt, close to my heart somehow. I'm not obsessed by it. Like, I don't look for evidence or looking in theories so much, but if we have some sort of intervention, whether we know it or not, from the extraterrestrial form of life, I don't think it's a far-fetched, I think it can really, really happen. Maybe not in a cartoony kind of way, but probably more serious and more subtle than we ever thought. But it is very possible. So yeah, that's how, I don't know, that's why Mabes Alien, it's just like, came out jokingly, but I feel like, somehow I had this special connection with those type of entities.
Well, we're gonna leave it with that.
Oh, really?
Our last question.
Don't we want to neutralize with something more?
Well, there's just a lot of uncertainty out there. I don't know that I can say anything more, but I'm gonna call Ara up to the stage. But thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. And I like that last note, Tara, about, a lot of things in this life are uncertain. And sometimes the best way that we can do is just to embrace that uncertainty and flow with life. And just be ready for any kind of surprises and changes that comes along the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to our speaker and also moderator. Can we give another round of applause? Yes, thank you so much to Tara and also to our amazing guest speaker today, Dee Lestari. And also thank you so much our audience here for coming to At America to our event for today. So yes, earlier in this event, everyone, we had a social media quiz for our online viewers. And the question was, which of the following books was written by an American author? And the correct answer to that is C, To Kill a Mockingbird, which was written by Harper Lee. Congratulations to @Fari.Aprianto from Instagram for answering the question correctly. And everyone, if you enjoyed today's session of Baca at America, make sure you also attend our next Baca at America session next month, this October. And this October, we are going to be reviewing a book called Gone Girl, written by Gillian Flynn. And yes, so please make sure you come if you enjoyed this session. And if you are also interested in attending more events here in At America, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms. We are on Instagram, X, Facebook, and also YouTube at AT America, and also our website at www.atamerica.or.id for more of our events, updates, and also informations. So yes, thank you so much everyone for attending our event today. Can we have another round of applause for our speakers and also our moderator? It has been such an insightful discussion. We wish you can come back here to At America. And my name is Ara, and see you at the next At America event. Thank you everyone. Baik, teman-teman semua,